My name is Rachel Miller, and at 41 I thought I had built a comfortable life in Denver, Colorado. I had a stable job at a local university library, a quiet suburban home with a well-kept garden, and a small circle of reliable friends I saw from time to time. On the surface, everything looked steady and even enviable. People often told me I was lucky to have such balance and peace. But deep inside I knew something was missing. I felt empty, like I was floating through my own days without really living them. Each day followed the same rhythm. I woke up early, made coffee, drove to the library, spent my hours helping students and faculty with research, returned home to cook a simple dinner, read a book or watch some television, and then went to bed. It was safe, predictable, and routine. But it was also lonely and uninspiring. I often found myself sitting in my living room at night with the soft hum of the refrigerator as my only company, staring at the walls and wondering if this was all my life would ever be. One Sunday afternoon in June changed everything. I had decided to take my book to Washington Park, enjoying the warm air beneath a wide oak tree. As I sat quietly immersed in the pages, a man stopped nearby to tie his shoelaces. He looked up, noticed the title in my hands, and said with a kind smile, "That's one of my favorite authors." I looked up surprised, and saw a man about my age with salt and pepper hair peeking out from under a baseball cap, warm brown eyes, and an approachable demeanor. His name was Daniel Hayes. We started talking casually, and to my surprise the conversation flowed easily. He told me he was a high school history teacher who had recently moved back to Denver after years of teaching in Austin, Texas. He loved hiking in the Rockies, photographing landscapes, and trying to cook new dishes, though he admitted he wasn't always good at it. I shared my passion for books, my steady work at the library, and my tendency to stay inside my comfort zone. He chuckled and said, "Maybe you just need the right company to try new things with." That simple remark planted a thought in me I couldn't shake. Over the following weeks Daniel and I began meeting often. We had coffee at Cherry Creek, took long walks around Sloan's Lake, and chatted for hours about everything from history to music to silly jokes. He wasn't flashy or trying too hard. He simply listened, asked thoughtful questions, and paid attention in a way that made me feel seen. I didn't realize how long it had been since I laughed out loud with someone until I found myself doing it with him. One Saturday he invited me to go hiking at Red Rocks. My first instinct was to say no. Hiking wasn't part of my routine, and I worried I'd slow him down or embarrass myself. But a part of me was tired of saying no to life, so I said yes. The trail challenged me, but Daniel was endlessly patient, encouraging me when I stopped to catch my breath, waiting without complaint. When we reached a lookout point and I saw the red cliffs glowing against the bright Colorado sky, my breath caught in awe. For the first time in years I felt alive. That hike was the beginning of something bigger. Daniel nudged me gently but steadily out of my routines. He invited me to try new restaurants, convinced me to join him for kayaking at Cherry Creek Reservoir, and even talked me into attending a cooking class downtown. I was nervous before each of these outings, but afterward I was filled with a joy I hadn't felt in years. Sometimes I laughed so hard my sides hurt. Other times I was deeply moved by the beauty of the experiences. Slowly, I realized how small I had let my world become. But with Daniel that world was expanding. Of course, fear came along with change. One evening after a wonderful day at the Denver Botanic Gardens, I admitted to him, "I'm scared, Daniel. I've lived safely for so long. What if I'm not good at living differently? What if I mess everything up?" He looked me straight in the eyes, steady and kind, and said, "Rachel, life isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. I'd rather live imperfectly but connected than perfectly safe and disconnected." His words sank into me like sunlight breaking through clouds. In the months that followed, Daniel and I continued to grow closer. We weren't rushing into anything dramatic or overwhelming. We were simply sharing life together. Meals, hikes, laughter, and even quiet evenings of conversation. He showed me that connection wasn't about grand gestures but about presence, attention, and sincerity. Through his eyes I began to see myself differently. I wasn't just the cautious woman who stuck to routine. I was capable of more. Capable of laughing freely, capable of taking risks, capable of saying yes. By autumn the transformation in me was undeniable. I had started taking more chances at work, suggesting new programs for students and even joining a book club I'd always been too shy to try. I reconnected with old friends I had drifted away from. I was stepping out into the world again. And Daniel was right there beside me, not as someone saving me, but as someone reminding me that I had always been capable of saving myself. One crisp evening in October, we hiked a trail overlooking the Denver skyline. The sun dipped low, painting the city with shades of orange and gold. Standing there with the lights flickering below, I felt a surge of gratitude. I thought back to the woman I had been at the start of the year. Comfortable but disconnected, afraid of change, hiding in routines. And then I thought of the woman I was becoming. Still careful, still thoughtful, but alive, present, and connected. Daniel squeezed my hand gently and said, "You know, Rachel, I think we both needed this. You remind me to slow down, and I think maybe I remind you to keep going." I smiled, tears pricking my eyes, and whispered, "You do." That night I realized I wasn't just comfortable anymore. I was living. I had learned that it wasn't too late to step back into life, even at 41. Comfort had kept me safe, but connection had brought me back to myself. And standing there with Daniel, watching the city lights twinkle like stars, I knew that my story wasn't over. It was just beginning.